Hey, my name is Shelly, and this is my channel, Shell Space. So you probably noticed that we have a bit of a change of the scenery. It is winter break, my entire family is home, and so my library is actually in our living room, so it's like really impossible to film anything when everybody's home. So I have holed myself away into my bedroom, and this is where we're going to film this video. So today's video is going to be a December wrap-up and then a January, like, loosely TBR. I don't do TBRs, but this is like the pile of books that I want to grab from. I'm also going to touch upon some goals that I want to do for 2024, changing some bad reading habits that I've gotten into. So I'll quickly go over my goals, and then we'll start my December wrap-up. I got into a really bad book spending habit in 2023, and I want to like nick that in the bud. I bought too many books that I was not reading, and then having all these unread books on my shelves was causing me really bad anxiety and making me feel very guilty and very bad. Not to mention the money spent, which could have been spent elsewhere on books that I don't really necessarily love. Like, I want to focus on buying books that I love. So the first thing I'm going to be doing in 2024 is I'm going to be focusing on my physical TBR. And also I'm going to be, if I don't have a book, I will probably get it from the library first. And then if I like it, then I will buy the physical copy. I've had a really bad habit of buying books and not reading them, or buying books and not liking them. So I want to avoid that whole unnecessary spending. So I really want to knock that like physical TBR down, because it is kind of overwhelming. Like, if I stacked all my unread books, they would be way taller than me. I mean, that's not a huge feat because I'm super short, but like, it's not good. It's not good. So I want to get that out of the way and utilize the library, because the library is so amazing. And the second thing is, I want to involve myself more in the community. I am really terrible at participating in like Discord discussions. I touched upon it in my TMI video, where I'm really bad at like group social interactions. I'm really great with one-on-one, but like when it comes to group social interactions, I tend to be a wallflower, and that does include Discord. So I want to try to make myself a little bit more uncomfortable and participate more in group Discord chats, because those are really awesome. Like, honestly, the community in Discord is just such a wonderful, loving community and supportive. They're so supportive of each other, and everything I see, everybody's so positive. Even if you don't like the book that the other person's talking about, or vice versa, everybody is super positive about it, and I just love that. And I love that community, so I really want to push myself to be part of more of that community. I forgot a book, so if I changed, you know why. Okay, so let's talk about December. December was a 4-star read. It was, I would say, lower 4-star. It was okay, but I mean, like, it wasn't great. It wasn't like, I really wanted to end the year with like a big bang 5-star, and I just didn't get that. And yeah, but I did make some progress in some of my series that I'm reading, and I think I completed a series. No, I didn't. I didn't complete a series, but I made headway. Let's just say that. So let's just start with what I read first of the month. And I actually have a vlog regarding the first 2 books that I'm going to talk about. So if you're interested in that, you can find that vlog above here. Okay, so the first one is Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. I'm just going to quickly touch upon this. This is an urban fantasy, adult urban fantasy, about a shapeshifter named Mercy Thomas. And yeah, it's just kind of like her story. There's werewolves, there's vampires, I'm sure there's lots of, I think there was a troll or something. There's lots of different creatures. It is urban fantasy, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't read urban fantasy in, I would say, a good 15 years, so it was really refreshing to read this, and I will definitely continue on with the series. This was probably a 3.5 to 4 stars. It's not perfect, but it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, and that is the point of reading, is to enjoy the books that you've read. So I really enjoyed it. I had a really great time. I talked about it in my vlog, and I will definitely be continuing on with the series. The next book I also talked about in my vlog is The Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I really loved the first part of this book, but kind of lost interest in the latter part of the book. This is a YA fantasy romance, and I cannot emphasize romance. Like, it is very much romance. It is like You Got Mail meets World War II. That's the only way. And there's gods. That's like honestly how I can describe it. I really, really love the world. But I had the same problem that I had with the Elements of Candace series, where she has these amazing worlds, these really developed characters, but everything's just so tight-knit, and it's very compact, and it's kept in a very compact environment, if that makes sense. And I do like that once in a while, but for this, I really felt that we could have gone bigger. We could have gone further. We could have dived deeper into the world. And because of that, it's a 4-star. I highly recommend this to a lot of people because I think this will be a hit for tons of people. It just didn't really hit for me. So YA fantasies are difficult for me. I tend to not like them. But this one was pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the series. I am kind of interested because there was a cliffhanger at the end. So I kind of am, but I think I will utilize the library and get an audiobook of that because I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is pretty good. So this was probably about 4 stars, I think. The next book I read, which I also talked about in my vlog, is Lords of Uncreation by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I finished that series. Oh, I did finish a series. Yay. Okay. So I finished that series and it is called, oh my God, brain is farting. The Final Architecture, I think. I think it's called The Final Architecture. So I finished that series. So that was really great. I really enjoyed the book, but I felt that it was too big. Like the book itself was too large. I think it could have been condensed a little bit. I really enjoyed the thought experiment that was behind it, the look of different, like what life would be like if we lost our home, Earth, and dealing with other beings and aliens and different cultures and religions. I really enjoyed all of that. But yeah, it was too big, like the book itself. It was too long and very convoluted. Like a lot of the times it was meandering and kept going on, and I lost a little interest in there. The characters were probably more developed than any of Adrian Tchaikovsky's books, so I really enjoyed the characters. But yeah, it was kind of like looking at the book from a higher aspect, kind of like looking down at the story. You're not in the story, you're looking down at it, and that's the only way I can explain it. And I like to be in the story. I like to be involved in the story and feel like I'm going along for the ride, whereas this was very much like a look down at the story. And that's not a bad thing. It's not. It's just I felt for the length of the story, it was too much. Yeah, so unfortunately, I do love Adrian Tchaikovsky. He is one of my favorite authors of all time, but I do find that I do not like how he ends series. And that is very unfortunate, but it is just my personal opinion. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I think I gave it 4 stars. So it was a solid read, and I highly recommend it to people who really like space operas, especially in the more advanced space operas. Yeah, I highly recommend it, but it just didn't fully work for me. It wasn't a 5-star read, and I think that's just what I'm trying to say. So the next book was another series that I'm continuing on with, and this is Raya Revelations, I can never say that, by Michael J. Sullivan, and I read Rise of Empire, and I was mid on it. This book was mid for me. Like, it was okay. It was okay. It did what it did, and I kind of didn't care. I didn't care. I think I have the unpopular opinion of liking the Legends of the First Empire series more so than Rhaenyra. Although I do love Royce and Hadrian, like their actual characters, I just love them. But the story itself, for me, just kind of like fell flat. And actually, I read the first, because this is actually this is a bind up of 2 books. I read the first book like 2 years ago, and then I put it down. So then I was catching up on the second book. So this book actually took me like 2 years to read. So I finally finished it, and I'm happy that I did. And I'm probably going to continue on with the next book in the first quarter of next year, or 2024. I should say this year, because now when I post this, this will be in the new year. So yeah, I will be reading it probably in the first quarter just to get the series done with. So I think I gave this 3.5 stars. It wasn't a favorite. It was okay. It was entertaining. It did what it did. And that's all I gotta say about that. So the next book I'm really disappointed in. I'm disappointed in myself for not loving it. First of all, not because this is the book's problem, because it's not the book's problem. The book is amazing and very well written, and everything about it is just, for me, it just didn't work. And that is The Daughter of the Empire by Raymond E. Feist and Jenny Wards. This is my first book from these two authors. And I don't know if I'm going to continue on. Maybe Jenny Wards, but I don't think I'm going to continue on with Raymond E. Feist, and I'm definitely not going to continue on with this series. I've wanted to read the series for years and years and years and years and years. But, oh, I have never read a more political book than this book. This book is all politics. Like, every single aspect of this book is political plotting. Every single aspect. I do like Myra. She strongly reminds me of Daenerys from Game of Thrones. Like, strongly. Or I should say Ice and Fire. Also Game of Thrones, the show. Like, I swear, I think George R.R. Martin probably was inspired by this character, because her beginning origin story is so similar. So similar. I could not express how similar it is. And even her, like, character development is so similar. But I do really love this world. I thought it was unique. It's like an Asian-inspired world, but honestly, I feel like it's a little bit more like North American Aboriginal-inspired and a little bit of Mayan-inspired. Like, it's very lush, well-developed world, but it was all political scheming. And it was not like you're like in the journey with Maya. It's like looking from above down the story, and you're just following Maya. There's a lot of head hopping. It was really hard to push through this book, I will be honest. I wanted to know what happened, but at the same time, I was really bored, and I don't know, it just the narration. I think it's just the narration and the way that it was written didn't work for me. And I wish that they had a little bit more character interaction that was outside of like the main plot. So this book was a 4, and I'm being very generous by giving this book a 4. And the only reason I'm giving it a 4 because it is so well written, so well plotted. The character works are just phenomenal. Like, the world is just, it's a classic for a reason. But my overall enjoyment, I would have to say, is probably about a 3-star. So I evened it out to 4. I do recommend this for people who like political fantasies and do like that kind of like more classic fantasy feel and tone, for sure. And if you like sci fantasy, I think this is more like, it's more fantasy, but it does have sci-fi elements. So yeah, I'm really bummed that I will be not continuing on with the series, but it does have an audience. Unfortunately, it is just not me. So the last book I finished in December is The Girl and the Mountain by Mark Lawrence. I have been wanting to pick this up for a really long time, but I've been waiting till it got cold and wintry, and it's not gonna get cold and wintry where I live. So I just decided to pick it up. And yeah, it was a solid, fun read. I don't think it would be a favorite. Personally, I don't know how to explain it, but this is like a plot. It's not a character story, it is a plot story, and it's very much like an adventure survival story. So if you're into like adventure survival stories, then this is definitely up your alley. And also, if you like post-apocalyptic worlds and, you know, ancient civilizations, this is definitely a good read. Although I enjoyed the character Yaz and a couple other characters, I felt most of the characters were just there to further the plot. They were very one-dimensional, and I kind of didn't care about them. But I would say the 3 main characters in this, I really love them. I love how weird and outlandish this world is. And this is in the same world as the book and the Ancestry, I think it's called. With that said, you don't need to read The Red Sister in order to read this, because it's completely different characters, completely different setting. But it is in the same world. So maybe if you want a little bit more context. But personally, I gave this a 4-star. I wasn't completely enthralled in it, but I did have a good time. It was a fun, solid time, and it was just a solid read. It wasn't a awesome read and it wasn't a bad read. It was just a solid read. I will be continuing on with this series in the first quarter of the year. So yes, I will be finishing up this series very soon. Salty Shelley is about to come out right now. Okay. I DNF'd this book. The Love Hypothesis by, oh, what is her name? Ali Hazelwood. Okay, so I'll be honest. I don't read contemporary romance. It's not my genre. I have nothing against it. It's just not what I read. But I have been kind of wanting to feel a little bit lighter read lately, so I picked it up because I saw that it was recommended by somebody that I trust. And I picked it up. And it was okay. It was basically like reading a rom-com, which is basically what it is. And that was fine. And then I found out that the main character is Canadian. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm also Canadian. I can connect with that character. So I thought that was really exciting until the character started making some very stereotypical, ignorant comments about Canada. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so I was really frustrated. And I talked to my husband and I told him, I'm like, listen to this line. Like, listen to these lines. Isn't that like really bad? And he's like, well, maybe the character is from like a different part of the country. Maybe she's from like the northern part where that is relevant. And I'm like, okay, maybe. So I'm reading on. And then I find out she's from Toronto. I was born and raised in Toronto. I moved out of Toronto like 10 years ago to a neighbor city that is literally like on the border of Toronto, just so I can raise my kids, but I am a Torontonian at heart, and yeah, it was so inaccurate. So I'm like, yeah, I may continue on once I get over it and get a little less defensive about it, but yeah, I have a problem with when authors write a character and they're from a different country and they make fun of that country. Like, that's not fucking cool. That is not cool at all. Oh, I just dropped them all. So with that nastiness out of the way, I'm going to quickly touch upon what I'm reading. So currently I am working my way through Destiny. I began this book, I think I started this book at the beginning of December, and I'm still like not even 100 pages in. And it's not because I don't enjoy it, because I am enjoying it. I have just been so, like I mentioned before, December was really busy and I didn't have a lot of time for physical reading, and I have been very distracted by TV as of lately. I just haven't been in the mood. But I've been watching some really good shows. I've been watching season 2 of What If, Murder at the End of the World. Those are two really good shows. I'm watching Children Ruin Everything, which is an amazing Canadian show that is like really true reflection of what it's like to live in Toronto and also what it's like to be a parent of young children. Like probably the most realistic representation of both. So I highly recommend that to young parents because it'll make you feel so much better about yourself just watching that show, because it's something that you can actually relate to. Whatever. Anyways, we're talking about this book. So Destiny is a third book in the Age of Symphony of Ages, and basically we're picking up where the last book left off. It is an epic fantasy, and I recommend this every time I talk about it. I like scream about this book series because it's an epic fantasy with a very, it does have romance in it, but it's very minimal, and I just love it. I love it. There's dragons, there's like troll-like people, there's like fae-like people. Like it's very unique, but also kind of familiar, if that makes sense. But I love it. The main character does get on my nerves quite often, but this guy, you can't really see him. This guy, I love him. Like, he's one of my favorite characters of all time. I just love him. So yeah, I am probably not going to finish this by the end of the year because today is the 31st, so that's not happening. But I do plan to finish it soon-ish. The next book I am currently listening to is The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. The only reason I'm listening to this is because it came in through my library, through the audiobook, so I'm listening to that. I do have a problem with Michael Kramer's narration, so it's a difficult book, but so far I'm enjoying it. Like, I've only listened to about an hour of it. I was really hoping to get it done by the end of the year so I can finish the Mistborn series, but that didn't happen. I've heard nothing but amazing things about the book, so I'm really excited to see how it ends. I have a huge stack of like books that I want to get to. I don't want this video to be like an hour long because I don't think anybody would watch it, but I'm just going to quickly go over the books that I have in a pile that I want to read. So they're just going to go through them. I'm just going to quickly touch upon the fact that 2024 I want to read more female authors. I would say in the last couple of years I've been focusing a lot on really popular male white authors, and I want to kind of get away from that. So I want to prioritize reading more female authors while still reading male authors. I'm not going to, say no male authors. That's just ridiculous. But my main focus will be female authors. But unfortunately, my physical TBR is mostly male authors, and I want to check that out of the park. So I'm at a crossroads here. So we'll just go over a huge pile of books that I want to read. And yeah, like I said, female authors is going to be my priority. But first, this is a nice quick novella, or is it a novella? I don't know. It's a short book. The Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a standalone novella, and I have no idea what it's about, but I heard it's like sci-fantasy, and I love sci-fantasy, and I do love his standalones. I think that that's where he shines. So I will be reading that. It's a quick read, so... Yep, another book that I mentioned that I want to get to in my 24 series to start in 2024 was The Belated Faith by David Dalglish. David Dalglish. I think out of all the new series that I want to start, it may be higher up. So the reason why I'm more interested in this series as opposed to some of the ones that I'm about to mention is because this is more Final Fantasy inspired, and I love Final Fantasy. Plus, I'm always on the hunt for underrated books, and this, in my opinion, is really underrated. I mean, I don't know. It's underhyped. I don't know if it's underrated because I haven't read it yet, so we'll see. So yeah, I want to get to this one. Another one is Tess of the Road by Rachel Hartman. I have had this on my TBR. Like, I've owned this book for years. So long. The reason why I want to read it is because, one, there's a couple of reasons why I want to read it. One, dragons. I've been kind of craving a dragon fantasy lately. Two, it's a standalone. Three, it represents mental health. I want to focus a lot on mental health reads this year, so that is the reason why it's kind of moved up on my list as of recently. I'm really hoping to get to this book soon. Plus, she's a Canadian author, so. Okay, so the next book is The Last Argument in Kings by Joel Abercrombie. I actually have the audiobook of this through my library, and for some reason it didn't show up for months and months, and then all of a sudden, pop, it shows up. So now I have the audiobook. So I want to finish out this trilogy, so I will be listening to the audiobook very soon, and then I will continue on with the standalones. Another book that I want to prioritize is Darkwater Daughter by M.H. Long, another Canadian author. I've heard a lot of praise about this. I am really looking forward to the fact that the sequel's coming out in 2024. And then I also heard that this is more like a cold atmosphere fantasy. Before I thought it was like warm temperatures because it's like nautical, but then I heard it's more cold temperatures. So now I'm like, perfect winter read maybe. So yes, as from what I know, this is about a woman who can control the weather or storms. And I think it's enemies to lovers. So okay, continuing on with the Marcy Thomas series, we got Bloodbound. Can't say anything else. This is the next book in the series. It's a long series, so it's pretty short. And I like me some short books once in a while. So I think I will probably prioritize this. And probably maybe I will read a Marcy Thomas book once a month for the rest of the year. That could be a goal. The Surviving Sky. I've had this book for a while, mostly because it's a cover by. Isn't that a gorgeous cover? I know this is more like about a mature marriage, and I think it's a dystopia. Not really sure. I think it's like one of those environmental dystopias. So I've been really kind of leaning towards reading this lately because I think I want to read something a little bit more mature in a female's voice. I have the audiobook on this from Script, so I will probably listen to the audiobook. Oh shit, the pile just fell over. It's okay, we're gonna leave it. So the next book I've been wanting to get to for quite some time, and that is the 12 Kings of Sharakhai. This will be a reread for me. I really want to jump back into this world. There is no rhyme or reason why I want to add this, just because I want to. So yeah, I've been wanting to reread this for a while. I have the audiobook, so I will be listening to this via audiobook. So yeah, this will be on my really soon list. And the last book that I want to mention is The Sword Catcher by Cassandra Clare. I actually, it was super shiny. When I saw this book in the bookstore, I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of looked at it, but I'm like, I read Cassandra Clare a long time ago, and her work was okay. I liked it at the time, but I'm like, do I want to continue on? But then I heard it is an adult series, and I heard a lot of good things about it. So I grabbed myself a special edition Indigo copy. And yeah, this will be a physical read. So I will probably pick this up after I'm done Dusty, maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say it probably. I'm probably not going to. But it's going to be a physical read, and I'm going to read it soon. So it's super shiny. Shiny and pretty. That video turned out a lot longer than I thought. If you've managed to stay until the end of my video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Goodreads. Like and subscribe if you want to. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.